Hello, my wonderful friends, and welcome back to English Gateway, the place where inspiring stories, powerful life lessons, and English learning come together. Every story you hear on this channel is chosen to motivate you, strengthen your confidence, and remind you that success is possible for anyone who refuses to quit. Today, I want to share one of the most extraordinary success stories ever told, the incredible journey of Colonel Harland Sanders, the man who built the world-famous KFC brand when most people believed their lives were already over. But before we begin, I want you to answer a few simple questions. Are you in your 20s and worried that you haven't achieved anything meaningful yet? Are you in your 30s or 40s wondering if you've already missed your chance to become successful? Have you ever felt rejected, unemployed, or disappointed, believing that life has left you behind? Do you sometimes watch successful people and quietly tell yourself, maybe success was never meant for someone like me? If any of these thoughts have ever crossed your mind, then this story is especially for you, because today, you're going to meet a man who faced more failures than most people could ever imagine. A man who lost opportunities again and again, struggled financially for decades, and reached the age when most people retire without having achieved his dream. Yet instead of accepting defeat, he made one decision that changed his life forever. At the age of 65, when many people were enjoying retirement, Colonel Sanders started a journey that would eventually create one of the biggest food brands in history. His story proves something very important. Success doesn't belong to the youngest person. Success belongs to the person who refuses to stop trying. So before we continue, if you enjoy motivational stories that inspire you while improving your English, make sure you subscribe to English Gateway, like this video, and let us know in the comments, "I will never give up." Those 5 words are more than just a comment. They are a promise to yourself. Every single day, we bring you inspiring stories, valuable life lessons, and motivational content designed to help you grow both personally and professionally. Now, take a deep breath, sit back, and prepare yourself for one of the most inspiring journeys you'll ever hear. This is not simply the story of fried chicken. This is the story of determination, rejection, courage, and hope. This is the unforgettable journey of Colonel Harland Sanders, the man who transformed countless failures into worldwide success. Our story begins on September 9th, 1890, in the small town of Henryville, Indiana, in the United States. A little boy named Harland David Sanders entered the world, without knowing that one day, millions of people across the globe would recognize his smiling face. But, unlike many success stories, his life didn't begin with comfort or opportunity. From his earliest years, life tested him in ways no child should ever experience. When Harland was only 5 years old, tragedy struck his family. His father suddenly passed away. In a single moment, everything changed. His mother was left alone to raise 3 young children with almost no financial support. Imagine being just 5 years old and realizing that your father would never walk through the front door again. For most children, that kind of loss would be heartbreaking. For Harland, it also meant something else. His childhood ended almost overnight. His mother had no choice but to work long hours to provide food and shelter for the family. That meant someone had to take care of the house. And that responsibility fell on the shoulders of a 5-year-old boy. While other children were outside playing games, Harland was learning how to prepare meals, clean the house, and look after his younger brothers and sisters. Every day brought new responsibilities. Every day demanded maturity beyond his age, without realizing it. Those difficult years were teaching him valuable lessons about discipline, responsibility, and perseverance. There was one activity that slowly became more than just another household chore: cooking. At first, he cooked simply because his family needed food. But as time passed, he discovered that he truly enjoyed preparing meals. He experimented with flavors, learned from experience, and became more confident in the kitchen. Little did that young boy know that the simple cooking skills he was developing out of necessity would one day build an international business worth billions of dollars. Sometimes, the smallest beginnings create the greatest destinies. And for Harland Sanders, everything started in a tiny kitchen where survival slowly turned into passion. For most children, childhood is a time for laughter, school, and playing with friends. But Harland Sanders lived a very different life. Before most children even learned how to tie their shoes, he had already learned how to cook meals, wash dishes, clean the house, and care for his younger brothers and sisters. Life had forced him to grow up much faster than anyone should. Even though he carried so many responsibilities, Harland never stopped dreaming of a better future. Whenever he found a free moment, He attended school and tried his best to learn. He was an intelligent boy who enjoyed gaining knowledge. Unfortunately, poverty had different plans. His family desperately needed money, and education became a luxury they simply couldn't afford. At the age of 7, Harland started working on nearby farms. Instead of spending his afternoons playing games, he spent long hours helping farmers with difficult physical work. The days were exhausting. The work was hard, but every small payment helped his family survive. As he grew older, life became even more difficult. By the time he was 10 years old, he was working almost full-time. Imagine working from sunrise until sunset for only a few dollars each month. Most people today would never accept such conditions. Yet Harland had no choice. Every single dollar mattered. Every coin helped put food on the table. When Harland turned 12, another painful chapter began. His mother remarried, hoping life would finally become easier. Instead, things became much worse. His stepfather treated him badly, making home feel like an unsafe place. Every day became more stressful. Arguments became common. Harland felt unwanted and alone. One day, he made a decision that would change his life forever. He packed what little he had and left home. Think about that for a moment. A 12-year-old boy, completely alone, with no money, no stable home, and no guarantee of what tomorrow would bring. Most people would have been terrified. But Harland chose courage over fear. He believed that facing an uncertain future was better than staying in a place where he had no peace. From that moment on, survival became his greatest challenge. As the years passed, Harland accepted almost every job he could find. He wasn't searching for luxury. He was simply searching for opportunity. He worked as a farm laborer. He became a streetcar conductor. Later, he worked as a railroad employee. He spent time as a steam engine fireman. He joined the United States Army for a short period. He also worked as a traveling salesman, an insurance agent, and several other jobs. Every new opportunity gave him hope. Every new beginning made him believe that perhaps this job would finally change his life. But again and again, disappointment followed. Sometimes he was fired. Sometimes the business failed. Sometimes circumstances beyond his control destroyed everything he had built. Failure became a regular part of his journey. Most people would have accepted defeat after facing so many setbacks. Many would have convinced themselves that success simply wasn't meant for them. But Harland refused to think that way. Instead of allowing failure to define him, he treated every disappointment as another lesson. Deep inside, he continued believing that one day his hard work would finally pay off. Years passed. One birthday followed another, yet success remained out of reach. By the age of 40, Harland still hadn't achieved the stable life he had dreamed about. No fortune, no successful business, no financial security. After decades of struggle, many people would have lost hope, but destiny was quietly preparing him for the opportunity that would change everything. Around this time, Harland received the chance to operate a small service station in Kentucky. It wasn't a glamorous business. It was simply a roadside stop where travelers filled their cars with fuel. But Harland noticed something interesting. The travelers were often hungry. Instead of letting them leave to find food somewhere else, he had an idea. Why not cook fresh meals for them himself? Using the cooking skills he had learned as a young boy, Harland began preparing homemade dishes. Among all his recipes, one meal quickly became everyone's favorite: his fried chicken. Customers loved its rich flavor, crispy texture, and unique seasoning. Word spread from one traveler to another. Soon, more and more people started visiting the station, not only for gasoline, but also for Harland's delicious chicken. For the first time in his life, it finally seemed that success had arrived. After decades of hardship, the future finally looked bright. But life wasn't finished testing him yet. For a short time, life finally seemed to be moving in the right direction. Harland's small service station had become more than just a place where people stopped for fuel. Travelers came from different towns just to taste his delicious fried chicken. His reputation was growing. Customers recommended his food to their friends and families. For the first time in decades, Harland believed that all his struggles had finally led him to something meaningful. He worked from early morning until late at night, serving every customer with a smile. His dream was slowly becoming a reality. But sometimes, life changes in a single moment. Without any warning, the government announced the construction of a new highway. The new road redirected traffic away from Harland's service station. Within weeks, fewer cars stopped by. then even fewer. Eventually, the busy station that had once been full of customers became almost empty. His business collapsed. The restaurant that had given him hope could no longer survive. Once again, Harland lost everything he had worked so hard to build. His income disappeared. His customers vanished. His future became uncertain. Imagine spending years building something with your own hands, only to watch it disappear because of circumstances completely beyond your control. Many people would have accepted defeat. Many would have blamed fate and stopped trying. But Harland refused to surrender, losing. The restaurant was only the beginning of another difficult chapter. He still needed money to survive, so once again, he searched for work at different times. He accepted jobs wherever he could. He worked as a cook. He managed small restaurants. He washed dishes. He supervised motels. He accepted almost any honest work that allowed him to earn a living. Every time he believed life was finally becoming stable, another problem appeared. Sometimes businesses failed. Sometimes he lost his job. Sometimes unexpected situations forced him to start all over again. One restaurant he worked so hard to build was even destroyed by fire. Everything he invested, his time, energy, and savings, was gone once again. Failure seemed to follow him everywhere. Think about his journey. He lost his father as a little boy. He left home at only 12 years old. He spent decades working countless jobs. He struggled with poverty almost his entire life. Every time he came close to success, something unexpected pushed him back to the beginning. Most people would have said, maybe success just isn't meant for me. But Harland never allowed those words to become part of his mindset. Although he had lost businesses, jobs, and money, there was one thing nobody could take away from him: his fried chicken recipe. For years, customers had praised its incredible taste. Wherever he cooked it, people came back for more. That recipe wasn't just food anymore. It was his greatest asset. One evening, Harland sat alone, thinking about his future. He knew opening another restaurant would require money he didn't have. Starting over from scratch would be extremely risky. Then an unusual idea came to his mind. Instead of opening his own restaurant again, why not teach other restaurant owners how to cook his famous chicken? They could use his recipe. In return, he would receive a small payment for every chicken they sold. Today, this sounds like a normal business strategy. But back then, almost nobody had ever built a restaurant business this way. It was a bold idea, a risky idea, and many people believed it would never work. Still, Harland had nothing left to lose. He wasn't protecting a fortune. He wasn't risking a successful company. He was simply betting on the one thing he still believed in, his recipe. That single decision would soon change not only his life, but the entire fast food industry forever. However, before the world accepted his dream, he would first have to face hundreds of painful rejections. At the age when most people begin planning for retirement, Harland Sanders was preparing for something completely different. He put on his clean white suit, packed his secret fried chicken recipe, and began traveling from one restaurant to another. He didn't have a big office. He didn't have investors. He didn't even have enough money to live comfortably. What he had was confidence in his recipe and an unshakable belief that someone, somewhere, would give him a chance. His plan was simple. He would cook his famous chicken for restaurant owners. If they liked it, they could add it to their menu. In return, Harland would receive a small royalty from every piece of chicken they sold. It sounded like a smart idea to him. Unfortunately, most restaurant owners didn't agree. The first restaurant rejected him, then another, then another. Some owners politely refused. Others laughed at him. A few didn't even allow him to finish explaining his idea. Many believed an elderly man with no successful company had nothing valuable to offer. Imagine hearing the word no over and over again, day after day, week after week, month after month. Most people would have gone back home. Most people would have accepted that their dream was impossible. But Harland kept moving forward. Every rejection strengthened his determination instead of weakening it. He traveled across America, often sleeping inside his car because he couldn't afford hotels. Some nights he survived on the cheapest meals he could find. Other nights, he had almost nothing to eat. Yet every morning he woke up with the same mission: find one more restaurant, knock on one more door, ask one more owner, because he believed that every no brought him one step closer to the right yes. After facing well over 1,000 rejections, something incredible finally happened. One Restaurant owner agreed to try his recipe. Just one. That single opportunity changed everything. Customers loved the chicken. Sales increased. People kept coming back for more. The restaurant owner was delighted with the results. Soon, other restaurant owners began hearing about the unusual fried chicken that customers couldn't stop talking about. Curiosity spread. More restaurants wanted to try it. Slowly, Harland's business model started gaining attention. 1. Agreement became 5. 5 became 20. 20 became hundreds. The dream that everyone had laughed at was becoming reality. The man who had spent most of his life struggling financially was finally seeing the rewards of decades of patience and persistence. As more restaurant owners joined his growing network, Harland realized his small idea had become something much bigger. Business partners and investors started recognizing the enormous potential of his recipe. Together, they began expanding the business under a new name that would soon become famous around the world: Kentucky Fried Chicken, or simply KFC. The name spread quickly. Customers loved the delicious fried chicken made with Harland's unique blend of herbs and spices. Restaurants became busier than ever. The brand continued growing from city to city and state to state. The same man who had once struggled to earn enough money for basic necessities was now building one of the fastest growing restaurant businesses in America. And perhaps the most inspiring part of this story is this: Harland Sanders didn't achieve this success in his 20s. He didn't achieve it in his 30s. Not even in his 40s or 50s. His greatest success began after the age of 65, at an age when many people believe life is slowing down. Harland Sanders proved that dreams have no expiration date. His journey had finally taken a remarkable turn. But even after achieving worldwide recognition, his story was far from over. The greatest business decision of his life, and one of his biggest regrets, was still waiting ahead. As the years passed, Kentucky Fried Chicken continued, growing at an incredible speed. More restaurants wanted to become part of the brand. Customers couldn't get enough of the delicious fried chicken that had made Colonel Sanders famous. His secret blend of 11 herbs and spices became one of the best-kept recipes in the food industry. People stood in long lines just to enjoy a meal prepared using his unique cooking method. Within only a few years, KFC expanded across the United States. New restaurants opened one after another. The company that had started with one man's determination was becoming a national success story. For the first time in his life, Harland Sanders was finally receiving the recognition he had worked for over several decades. The same man who had spent most of his life struggling to survive was now respected as one of America's most successful entrepreneurs. His face, dressed in a white suit with a black string tie, became the symbol of quality, dedication, and perseverance. But success also brought new challenges. Managing a rapidly growing company wasn't easy. Every month, more restaurants joined the business. More employees had to be trained. More decisions had to be made. Harland loved cooking. He loved meeting customers and making sure every meal tasted perfect. But running a large corporation required skills beyond the kitchen. By this time, he was in his 70s. Traveling constantly and handling the pressure of a fast-growing business became physically exhausting. He realized he couldn't manage everything alone forever. So in 1964, at the age of 73, Colonel Sanders made one of the biggest decisions of his life. He agreed to sell Kentucky Fried Chicken to a group of investors for $2 million. At that time, it was considered a huge amount of money. For someone who had once struggled to buy food, becoming a millionaire was an unbelievable achievement. He believed the new owners would continue protecting the quality and values that had made KFC successful. After signing the agreement, he stepped away from daily management while remaining the public face of the company. He continued visiting restaurants, greeting customers, and promoting the brand he had created with years of sacrifice. As time passed, Colonel Sanders noticed something that deeply disappointed him. The new management began making changes to reduce costs and increase profits. Some ingredients were replaced, some cooking methods were modified. The quality that Harland had spent decades perfecting was slowly changing. Whenever he visited certain restaurants, he felt the food no longer matched his original standards. He wasn't angry because he had sold the company. He was heartbroken because the recipe he had protected with so much care was no longer being prepared exactly as he had intended. On several occasions, he openly criticized the declining quality. He wanted customers to experience the same delicious chicken that had first made KFC famous. But the company was no longer under his control. The contract had been signed. The decision couldn't be reversed. Although he had earned financial success, this remained one of the greatest regrets of his life. Still, he never allowed regret to erase his gratitude. He understood that KFC had changed his future forever. It had given him opportunities he never imagined possible. And most importantly, it had proved that persistence can transform an ordinary person into a global inspiration. Instead of spending his remaining years complaining about the past, Colonel Sanders continued traveling, meeting people, sharing his story, and encouraging others to believe in themselves. His smile, his white suit, and his positive attitude became recognized all over the world. He was no longer known simply as a businessman. He had become a living symbol of hope, a reminder that no matter how many times life knocks you down, one successful opportunity can completely change your future, even after selling KFC. Colonel Sanders refused to slow down. Although he was no longer running the company, he remained deeply connected to the brand that had changed his life. He traveled across America and many other countries, visiting KFC restaurants, meeting customers, and sharing his incredible journey. Wherever he went, people welcomed him with admiration. They didn't just see a successful businessman. They saw a man who had turned pain into purpose and failure into unforgettable success. Dressed in his famous white suit and black string tie, Colonel Sanders became one of the most recognizable faces in the world. His image represented honesty, hard work, and determination. Millions of people looked at him and realized that success doesn't belong only to the young. It belongs to those who refuse to quit. Although age had slowed his body, it never weakened his spirit. He continued inspiring entrepreneurs, students, and dreamers everywhere he went. His life had become living proof that persistence is stronger than failure. In 1980, at the age of 90, Colonel Harland Sanders passed away. The world lost an extraordinary businessman, but more importantly, it lost a man whose life inspired generations. When people looked back at his journey, they didn't remember only the success. They remembered everything that came before it. A little boy who lost his father at the age of 5, a child who learned to cook simply to help his family survive, a teenager who left home searching for a better future, a man who spent decades working countless jobs, a businessman who lost everything more than once, a dreamer who heard no hundreds of times but continued knocking on doors, and finally, a 70-year-old entrepreneur whose determination created one of the world's greatest restaurant brands. Today, KFC operates in thousands of locations across more than 150 countries. Every day, millions of customers enjoy meals that exist because one man refused to let failure define his future. His journey reminds us that even the smallest dream can become something extraordinary when combined with patience, courage, and relentless effort. So, what can we learn from Colonel Sanders' incredible story? First, your age does not decide your future. Many people believe they are too young to succeed or too old to begin again. Colonel Sanders proved both ideas are completely false. As long as you're alive, you still have the opportunity to change your life. Second, failure is not the opposite of success. It is part of the journey. Every setback teaches something valuable. Every disappointment prepares you for a greater opportunity. If Colonel Sanders had quit after his first failure, the world would never have known his name. Third, never allow rejection to destroy your confidence. People may reject your ideas. They may laugh at your dreams. They may tell you that success is impossible. But remember, other people's opinions never decide your future. Your determination does. Finally, believe in yourself. Even when nobody else does, there will be moments when you feel alone. Moments when nothing seems to work. Moments when giving up feels easier than continuing. Those are the moments that define your future. Because every successful person reaches a point where quitting seems like the easiest option. The winners are simply the people who decide to keep going. Now it's your turn. Maybe you're facing difficulties right now. Maybe you're struggling with your career. Maybe you're trying to start a business, learn a new skill, or completely rebuild your life. Whatever challenge you're facing, remember Colonel Sanders. Remember that one decision, one opportunity, and one moment of courage can completely transform your future. Never let your current situation convince you that your story is over. Sometimes your greatest breakthrough comes after your greatest struggle. Keep learning, keep improving, keep believing, and above all, never stop moving forward. If this story inspired you, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to English Gateway, and share it with someone who needs encouragement today. Leave a comment below and tell us, "I will never give up," because every great success story begins with one simple decision. The decision to keep going. Thank you so much for watching. Stay inspired, stay confident, keep learning English, and I'll see you in the next inspiring story. Until then, never give up.